If you've made it to this video, that's great. That means that you've set up your circuit and you're ready to hop in and do a little bit of code work. So the first thing we're going to do is go to makecode.microbit.org and just click on New Project to start a new project. The first thing you're going to want to do is give it a name. I'm going to name mine Rainbow and then click Create to get started. You're going to need to know about the OnStart block and the Forever block. The OnStart block is the block that will run whenever your microbit starts up. So every time you turn it on or hit the reset button or upload some new code to it, it will run the OnStart and then go into the Forever loop. The Forever block just keeps repeating the code within it forever and ever. So the first thing we're going to want to do is add a little bit of code into the OnStart block. We're going to want to set up some variables to represent our LEDs. There's going to be 3 variables that we need. One to represent each leg of the LED. There's a red one, a blue, and a green. So we'll make those 3 variables first by clicking the Variables tab and then clicking Make a Variable. This is where you get to choose the name for your variable. Now, a good rule of thumb to follow when naming your variable is to give it a name that lets you know what that variable is representing or referencing. Since we're making our variables to equal out the 3 legs, I'm going to name mine red, green, and blue. So now we have 3 variables ready to do some work. But our code isn't doing anything. We're going to want to drag in some set blocks and just plop them into the OnStart block. Since we have 3 variables, we will want to do this 3 times. One for each color leg of the LED. You can change what is being set in the set block by clicking these little tabs here. We're going to be doing red, green, and blue. So let's change our set blocks so they're the right variables. Now each time our code runs, our 3 color variables will be set to 0 in the OnStart block. We might just want to add something to let us know our code was uploaded. A good way to do this would be showing a show icon or show LEDs. This makes something show up on the front piece of your microbit right here. So let's just drag the show icon block and drop it right underneath the set blocks. If you take a look over on the left side of your screen, you can see a microbit showing here. This microbit is going to show you what your microbit will do once you upload the following code to it. Since we chose the show icon in a heart, now every time we set up the microbit, it runs the OnStart block, sets the 3 variables we created to 0, and then shows a heart on the screen. That way you can tell when you upload your code that the new code ran. The next thing we want to do in our code is test our LEDs. We can do this by clicking the Advanced tab and going down to the Pins tab. Then we're going to be using some analog writes to write to the pins on our boards. This just means that our microbit is going to be sending a signal to whichever pin we choose. Do you remember what pins we set up on our LED? If you think it's pin 0, 1, and 2, you're absolutely correct. So we're going to want to change our analog writes to analog write pin 0, pin 1, and pin 2. Right now, our code will set our three variables when it starts, show an image to show you the code uploaded, and then it will be writing to the 3 pins on our circuit forever. Right now, it's just going to send 1023 to each pin, but we want to write the colors to the pins that they represent. We're going to want to set up each pin to represent its color. We're going to do this by placing the variables we created into this little spot right here. So first we're going to grab our red, then our green, and lastly our blue. Make sure you do this in the correct order so you are sure that the red is going to the red leg and the green and blue are going to their correct legs on your circuit. My red pin is P0, my green is P1, and my blue is P2. I'm thinking something's a little funny here. Nothing will happen because all of our colors are set to 0 on our start block. And then in our forever block, it's going to just write 0 to each of the legs. So what we're going to need to do is give it some color. We can do this by adding some more set blocks into our forever block. I'm going to place it right above the analog write pins, and we're going to do the same thing we did in the on start block. We're going to need 3 set blocks, and we're going to want to change them to represent the colors that they need to be: red, green, and blue. Now we're not too worried about setting up all of the rainbow. We just want to test out our pins to make sure that it can light up any color at all, really. So what we're going to do here is change just one of the numbers and say blue equals 500. That way, when our forever code runs, it will set blue to 500 and then write red, which is 0, to P0, green, which is also 0, to P1, and blue to 500. That means it's going to send a signal to pin number 2, which is the blue leg, and light up the color blue. Now, a very important step. We're going to want to upload our code to our microbit to ensure it works. So the first thing you're going to want to do is plug in your microbit. You can do this by plugging the small part of your USB.
You can do this by plugging the
into
small
the top
part
portion
of your
microbit,
USB
right above
into the top
the
of your
face
microbit.
on the front
port will
of your
be
microbit. Then
right above the face
you're
here.
going to want to plug in the USB side into your
on
PC.
the front side of your microbit.
It should be recognized on your computer fairly
and then you're going to want
quickly.
to plug in the USB
And then we're
side
going to need
into
to
your
download
PC.
our code.
It should be recognized on
You
your
can do
computer
this
fairly quickly. And then we're going to need to download our code. You can do this by clicking the purple download button right here. Once you click the button, you should see this little pop-up here and the download beginning in the bottom left corner of your browser. Once you have it downloaded, you're going to want to open it up in the folder so we can copy and paste the file onto our microbit. You're going to open it up and show your code in the folder, then right-click the file and click copy. Then you're going to look over to the left. You'll see your microbit listed here, usually in the D slot. We're going to click on the microbit and then right-click and paste our code right onto it. Making constant changes to your program is a very important part of the programming progress. You're going to want to test all of the time to ensure that every little piece of your code is going to run smoothly and do what it needs to do. So don't forget how to download and upload your code onto your microbit, and do it as frequently as you need to do.